British diver who heroically saved young soccer players from a flooded cave in Thailand had to be rescued himself.
This diver found himself trapped deep inside an underwater cave in Tennessee. Just released footage shows how difficult it was to save Josh Bratchley, who got lost after his guideline broke.
The entrance to this cave is underwater, and the divers use a thin type of rope to guide themselves in and out of the caves, and this diver lost his.
It is a race against time as rescue crews from 3 states look to save a diver inside a mid-state cave.
Experienced divers were flown in, brought here by the THP. They're about to go in, and as you say, this is a race against time.
Breaking news overnight, that dramatic rescue, the diver that was trapped in a Tennessee cave has been saved.
Let's bring in diver Edd Sorenson, who rescued Bratchley. Ed, thanks for being with us this morning. And if you can, tell us exactly how you found Josh and how you got him out safely.
So, the Tennessee cave rescue. So apparently there was 4 or 5 of them, the members of that famous rescue dive team that did the Thailand cave rescue. That was one of those impossible things that everybody bet, 90 to 1 that 99 to 1 that those kids were coming out dead. So they did an awesome job. But apparently there was 5 or 6 of them. But anyway, they were in the United States on this tour. And they had gotten a hold of a friend of mine, Thorne, up in Tennessee, and they wanted to do some sump caves up there. So he had taken them to some different spots. And there was one cave that was on private property. And Thorne had the only permission to dive this cave. He went in there once, is what he told me, and he only went maybe 100 feet or so, and it was really low and nasty and muddy, and he didn't like it, so he laid line to there, and then he got out and he called my friend Jason Richards. And Jason was notorious for doing all that stuff up in Tennessee, and Jason just doesn't care if there's visibility or not. And so Jason did the rest of the putting in the line, and he found this air pocket in the back. And so anyway, Thorne takes them there and says, there's only 2 of us that have ever been in this. And they said, yeah, we want to do this. So they start diving it. Well, they dove it one day, and I think they all dove it. And then the second day, they decided they didn't like Jason's line. In Europe, I guess they use a much heavier, because they're always in dry gloves, or big thick gloves. So instead of running number 24 line like we do, they run this like 6 millimeter polypropylene floaty line. And so they went down to a hardware store and bought spools of this line. And the plan was, one of the divers is going to be laying this new line, and then the guy that I rescued was going to be behind him, reeling up the old line. Normally, we would do that in 2 separate dives. We would lay the line, or if we did it in one, we would lay the line, and then we would come back and pull the line, the old line. They were going to do it in one shot. Well, it's so low and nasty and muddy that Josh said as soon as they went in, the guy in the front can see, and the guy in the back can't see anything. And viz wasn't very good to start with. So the guy in the front's got minimal viz, and the guy in the back's in 0 viz. So he was running this big reel that the line came on. So it's just a plastic spool with a hole through it. So he's got a piece of PVC through it. So he's got to hold that, make sure it doesn't fall off the end, and spin it on this way. Well, that takes 2 hands, but he's in 0 viz, so he has to follow the line, which takes another hand. And in all my cave classes, I tell all my students, never try and do 3 hands worth of things with 2 hands. Something always gets dropped. And this was a prime example of why we don't do that. But anyway, he's holding a stick, reeling up, and he's got his finger around the line. Well, they're following the line until it opened up a little bit Well, the guy in front decides he's going to go over here to a better tie-off. And the line keeps going this way. So it, whoop, right out of his fingers. Now he doesn't have a line anymore. He still has the reel of line, but that goes to the back of the cave, not out to safety. So apparently, he's looking for his dive buddy or the line to go home with, and his dive buddy is looking for him. Now, these are the guys that are touted all over the media worldwide as the best rescue divers in the world. And they are this closer than we are to each other, and they can't find each other. But I've always told people, in zero visibility, if you're 1 inch away, you're gone. You might as well be on the other side of this lake, because 1 inch, a quarter of an inch, or a mile, it doesn't matter. You're gone. And they couldn't find each other. Finally, the lead diver, as you know in cave diving, first in, last out. So when he exits, his buddies are waiting, and of course they're seeing all this mud coming out. It's just a mountainside with this little teeny stream of water coming out of the mountain, and they're seeing this turn into mud. And then he comes out, and they're like, "Where's Josh?" He's like, "Well, I thought he was out here. He was behind me." And they're like, "He's not out here." So they start putting together a rescue mission. They're going to go after him. And they did dive after dive, and I think they had people bringing them tanks and food. So they ended up doing, I think I was told, 7 or 8 dives over 11 hours before they finally were out of tanks, out of gas, out of food, out of energy, and they needed sleep. So they decide to go get food and sleep, and Thorne's supposed to be getting them more tanks. And they called me, I don't know what time they quit, but they called me at 2:30 in the morning because we were sound asleep, and I just remember vaguely hearing the phone ring, and Stacy answered the phone, and I could hear her say in a not a very happy tone, "Yes, he's here, but he's sleeping." And then all of a sudden she's like waking me up. "You're going to want to take this." So I get on, and this guy's got a heavy British accent. I can barely understand him. And he's like, "We've heard about you. We need you to come find our mate." I'm like, "All right, what's going on?" So he tells me the story, and I'm like, "All right, I'm on my way." So now I have to figure out, and we had just put a new engine in my plane, but we hadn't got the break-in time done on it, and it's nasty, nasty, stormy, lightning bolts and shit everywhere. So I thought, we're gonna have to fly commercial. So I'm getting my gear together. Stacy's trying to book me, last-minute flights. We're trying to get there as fast as humanly possible. And I know Thorne and Jason are the only 2 people that have ever been in here. And I called Jason. He was stationed, he's an Apache helicopter instructor at the time, and he was stationed in Hawaii. So I call him, and he didn't answer the phone. I sent him a Facebook message because I saw he was online. And he immediately calls me, and he goes, "It's got to be holy shit 30 in the morning there, so something's really bad's got to have happened." So I tell him what happened. And he sends me a picture that he had taken in that air pocket. And that air pocket was about less than 4 feet tall and maybe 8 foot in diameter. And Jason's like, "How long's this guy been in there?" And at that time, I think it had been like 18 hours or something. And it's going to be 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 before I get there. And Jason's like, "Yeah, no, he's dead." And I said, "Is there enough air in that air pocket to sustain life till I get there?" He said, "Not a chance." And I said, "That's got to be cold." He goes, 50 degrees. And I said, "Is there any way for him to physically get out of the water?" He goes, "No. He'll be hypothermic and dead. He'll either be hypoxic and dead or hypothermic and dead. Either way, he's going to be dead. You're doing a body recovery." And I said, "Yeah, that's what I thought." So we're still scurrying, getting shit together. And then I'm supposed to fly. We drive 100 miles an hour to Tallahassee to make my flight to get to Atlanta to Nashville. And then one of my friends who's a cave diver that lives in Nashville, he's also a Apache pilot in the military. He's going to pick me up from the airport, and he's going to bring me tanks and an oxygen bottle. I trained him on the Sidewinder as well. So he's going to bring me sorb and a big reel. So I'm having to pack a lot less stuff. And he's going to give me a ride to the airport. Or from the airport in Nashville to, it's like an hour and 45 minutes into the mountains to this cave. And so we get to Tallahassee, and of course I got these big roll around Pelican boxes, and they're marked with giant yellow tape that says body recovery diver, life support system. So I'm zooming through the airport, and I get on the plane. We get to Atlanta. They put me on another plane, and they had people waiting to move my stuff. And I'm in the front row of the plane, so there's no seats in front of me. I got a wall up here. They're just getting ready to shove off from the gate, and the captain or the stewardess, I don't remember, they make an announcement, you have to turn off your phone. Well, I had my phone in this pocket on this wall up ahead of me. So I reach up, I grab my phone, and I'm just getting ready to slide it into airplane mode. And it rings, and it says Brian Krebs, who's the head detective and sheriff for this rescue. They had like 4 different counties of sheriffs and state police, and they had their mobile command center there, and there was 2 or 3 different Tennessee dry cave rescue grottos that had volunteers there. There was like 300 people there. And it says Brian Krebs. And so I go to answer it, and the stewardess is right there. And I said, I need to take this call. And she goes, sir, turn off your phone. I said, you don't understand. I need to take this call. And she's reaching for she's going to take my phone from me. So I just hit speakerphone and I hold it out here. And I'm like fending her off. And now the whole plane's listening as he goes, Ed, this is Brian Krebs, sheriff for Jackson County. It was funny that I live in Jackson County, and I'm going to Jackson County, Tennessee. And he said, they're afraid he's not going to be alive by the time you get here and drive there. So their state police is dispatching a helicopter. There'll be 2 armed guards that will take you and your gear with lights and sirens to the helicopter, and they will fly you up instead. And the stewardess is like, maybe you should take that. I'm like, you think? So anyway, he said, I had called Mike because I had taken Mike on that Dominican body recovery. I'd never go up with anybody, but on that Dominican one, Patrick Woodwin had said, this is so bad, so nasty, so small, so dangerous, you're going to need somebody. So I took Mike. So on this one, I hear the same thing. So I called Mike, and he said, I'll meet you there, because him to come from Arkansas is about the same time for me to fly and get there. Well, the sheriff says, that's going to put you over an hour ahead of your dive buddy, which means you're going to have to do this by yourself. Are you okay to do this by yourself? I said, I do them all by myself. And he said, all right. So I hang up the phone, and everybody on the plane stands up and they're clapping. And they're, go get him, go get him. And I've been on thousands of flights over the many decades I've been flying. And whenever they say, these people need to get off the plane first because their connecting flight's going to leave in a couple of minutes, everybody's like, you, and they all stand up. Screw you, I'm more important. And when they are taxiing to the gate, the captain makes the announcement that this guy's going to rescue somebody. Please remain seated and let him get off the plane. Well, I'm in the front row anyway. And everybody stayed in their seat. And I'm like, that's happened never. And the stewardess is helping me, and she's like, go get him. And apparently, she called my house the next day. She looked up Cave Adventures, and she called, and Stacey goes, yeah, he's not even home yet. And she said, I just wanted to see if he got him out alive. And she said, he did. In fact, it'll be on Good Morning America in 10 minutes. He's going on live. Anyway, so I get out, and at the top of the ramp are 2 sheriff's deputies. And of course, I got giant bags that say body recovery equipment. So they grab me and usher me through the airport, and they got a car waiting right out front. And off we go. We get in the helicopter, and the guy's flying me out into the woods. And when we get to where we got to land, it's this mountain bowl. And I know lots of helicopter pilots, and I've been lots of helicopters. And I'm like, there's no way we're landing here and living through it. And he's like, I got this. And he set this down. There's like power lines here and trees here and this little teeny triangle. And he set that thing right down the middle of that triangle. And then they came out, some dry cave rescue volunteers with a little golf cart like thing. Grabbed all my gear, ushered me into, they had a big giant 40-foot fifth wheel mobile command center there. So they shuffled me into that. And apparently all these guys, the 2 guys that were doing most of the looking for him from the Thai Cave Rescue team were in there. And apparently when they got there that next morning and found police tape everywhere and sheriffs everywhere, and the sheriffs wouldn't let them in. And they said, our friend's in there, you know, we've got fresh tanks, we're coming to rescue him. And the sheriff said, no, the cave's closed. We're waiting for an expert out of Florida. And the guy says, is it Edd Sorenson? And he goes, yeah, do you know him? He goes, no, but if I was in there, that's who I want coming to look for me. And so I get there, and there's all these different, I mean, this huge trailer is just jam-packed. So I get into this trailer, and there's like 3 or 4 counties of sheriff's deputies in there, and all these dry cave rescue, surface personnel, and then the Thai Cave Rescue guys. So the sheriff says, tell him what he can expect to see. And the one guy's like, well, the line might be broken, and you might have to run your own line. I said, I got a reel. So anyway, he's telling me, as soon as you go in, everything's instant zero visibility. So the second you go in, boom, zero visibility. So I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be really bad. And then the sheriff says, and they're all looking at me like, you know, like I'm Noah, and I got the ark ready to go, you know, and they're waiting for this gospel according to Ed. And he's like, okay, so what's your plan? And they're all waiting for this divine plan, this master plan that I have up my sleeve. And I said, I don't have a plan. And they're looking like, you're the expert. What do you mean you don't have a plan? And he goes, what do you mean you don't have a plan? I go, I've been doing this for 25 years. I said, not any 2 of them have ever been the same, so a plan would be useless. I said, I go in, I see what I see, and I make decisions and determinations based on what I see. He's like, so are you going to run your own line, or are you going to use theirs? I go, I don't know. He's like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, well, I haven't seen it yet. I said, if it's good, why would I waste time running another one? I said, if it's no good, I got a reel, I'll run my own. Well, how long are you going to be there? I said, I don't know. And they're probably thinking, God, does this guy know anything? Did we get the right expert? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. I said, but I said, I know my suit heater broke last week and it's in the shop. So I said, and this water's really cold. I said, so I'm probably not going to be there more than 3.5 hours, 4 tops. So now I'm going outside and I'm grabbing my sorb and I'm packing scrubbers, and they're all interrupting. Can we do anything? What do you need? I said, just go away. So I get my breather belt, I get my suit on, I get in the water, and there's just people everywhere. And it's this little teeny stream. It's probably 10 feet wide and about that deep, going into the side of a mountain. And I get in, I'm like, oh my God, that's cold. And I start going in, and yeah, it's just like they said it was. Nasty, low, mungy, terrible. And the lines run clear on the opposite wall, where it's like this tall, and in the middle it's this tall. So I'm like, well, I'll just go down the middle. So I go through that, and then it gets to like a tall, skinny, narrow passage. So I get to there, and we use tie-offs, as you know. So we'll wrap it around and then lock it around a rock. They use what's called Snoopy loops. And it's a little loop of rubber, like a chunk of an inner tube, car tire inner tube. And they wrap it around the line and pull it tight, and then they wrap that around rocks. And that's what holds the line. And I'm going along, and there's these Snoopy loops are coming off everywhere. And so far it's acceptable. And then it makes a turn and heads this way. And that Snoopy loop is getting ready to come off. And then I look up, and it's 10, 12 foot visibility, real hazy. And I see this just tower of knotted up, wadded up, floaty line. There's got to be 300-400 feet of it just floating in like a sculpture. I looked at this thing, I'm like, holy crap, what do we got here? So I just reached over and grabbed my Z-knife, and I just chopped it off. And I checked the ceiling, because at this point he's been in there like almost 27 hours, and I know he's perished. I'm doing a body recovery. And so I'm checking the ceiling a lot, because like I said, they float. So I check the ceiling over here, and there's this crack and crevice up here. So I grab all that line, and I throw it up there so it's out of my way. And I get my reel out, and I tie on, and I start going. I can't see crap in this thing. I mean, the viz is terrible. So I'm just gonna follow this wall. And because I look out this way, and the light just disappears in the muck. And everywhere I go, the floor is just torn to shreds. There's claw marks in the mud, there's tank drag marks, there's fin marks, there's knee prints. And I'm like, holy crap, somebody had a really bad day in here. And I just kept going and going, and I'd search the ceiling. And I wear a Paralens camera on my mask. And in all the excitement and everybody interrupting me and hurrying me and rushing me, I never turned my camera on. And all of a sudden, I'm going along, and that wall is looking like a really bad place to go any further down that wall. So I got to turn. And I'm looking for something to tie off, because you can't just take the line with you. You got to make a tie off so you don't line trap it. And there's this little tie off, smaller than my thumb, sticking out of that wall. And I gingerly go around that, and I start going this way. And all of a sudden, there's a crevice and a ledge over here, and it whacks me in the mask. And I'm like, oh shit, my camera. So I turn the camera on, and I can feel it buzzing, that it's turning on. And I'm looking around for the ceiling to see if there's a body floating up there. And I see this shimmering of a air pocket. And about that time, I see the reel with the stick through it on the bottom. I'm like, okay, he's gonna be dead right here, because usually they'll drop the reel and when they die. So I see the reel, I'm looking around, that's when I saw the shimmering. And so there's two different lines, and they're both loose and sloppy, and this reel of line that he was rolling up. And so I tie off to the same place that was tied off, and then I'm going in a different direction to stay away from those other two loose, sloppy lines. And I started going up, and I pop up, and there he is. And this air pocket is huge. I just saw a picture of it, and it was like 8 or 10 feet across maybe, and he's like 20 feet from me. What happened was the water level from the time Jason had done that, run that line and mapped that, the water table had dropped like 6 feet. So that air pocket up there was huge. So when I asked Jason, would he have survived? No. Is there enough air up there? No. Well, this thing had grown tenfold. And there was a little shelf, and he was barely out of the water. I mean, like, here's the shelf and here's the water level, right at that shelf. And I popped up, and I don't know who was more surprised, him or me. And I'm just like, oh shit, he's alive. And he goes, hey, thanks for coming to get me. And so I can't just pull my, you know, you're a rebreather diver now. You know, you got to shut that DSV first. So I shut the DSV and I pull it out. And earlier on in the mobile command center, when they were asking me, do you ever get afraid? I'm like, no. And they said, do you ever worry about anything? I said, yeah, I worry about a lot of things. And they said, what would cause you to worry on this? And I said, well, one, if he's still alive, is he too hypercapnic to aid in his own rescue? Is he too hypoxic to aid in his own rescue? Is he too hypothermic to aid in his own rescue? And I said, a lot of times, when you take somebody that has been in a near-death situation and they find a safe space, and then you take them back into that they're going to panic and they're going to kill you too. So that's what I had told him. And so now I'm up here and he's alive. So I'm thinking, I got to keep this light. You know, he seems like he's in a good mood. And so I said, when he said, thanks for coming to get me, I said, hey, thanks for being here. And I said, are you okay? And he said, I'm good. And I said, are you warm enough? Because I'm worried about the hypothermia. And he said, yeah, I have, we call them undergarments, they call them woolies. He said, I have really good woolies. I said, okay, do you have any gas left? He said, yeah, I have 50 bar in this tank and I have 100 bar in this tank. And so I figured, okay, that's enough gas to get you out. So I told him, I said, start with the fullest tank. And if you have to, well, first we're still talking. When he first asked, said, thanks for coming to get me. And I said, thanks for being here. The second question I forgot, he said, who are you? Because all he could see was my head. And I kept going back underwater. And if you watch the video, you'll see I keep going underwater because I'm looking for some place to tie this reel off to. I don't want to have it in my hand when I got to deal with him. So I'm trying to talk to him, yet I gotta tie this reel off somewhere, and I'm just sitting there knee deep in mud. And he says, who are you? I said, I'm Edd Sorenson. And he goes, I was hoping they would bring you. And I'm thinking, wow, I have no idea who you are, but that's cool. And so anyway, we talk about the gas, and I said, you know, I'm on a rebreather, so I don't need any. I said, but I have, my tanks are full. I said, I have a 7-foot hose on my right side. I said, you start on your fullest tank. If you have to switch regulator, I said, I'm going to keep you behind me, and you're going to be hanging onto my ankle. And I said, if you have to switch regulators that you've emptied that tank, I said, squeeze my leg. And I said, I will give you my 7-foot hose. I said, this tank has enough gas to get you out of here twice. And he said, okay. And so then I gave him a play-by-play. I said, when we first go down, I said, you're sitting on a mud shelf. I said, when you come in, Viz is going away. He goes, yeah, I've tried to self-rescue 3 times. And he said, I'd have to wait 5 or 6 hours for the visibility to clear up. And I said, so what I want you to do is I want you to slide in head first, and I'm going to reach out, and I'm going to catch you by the hand, and I'm going to physically put you on the line. And I said, then I'm going to show you my leg, and you're going to follow me out. And I said, when we get to this pinnacle, there's 3 different lines. I want to physically move your hand where I want you. And I said, I can't have you fight me. I can't have you not let go of the line. I can't have you argue. And he's like, that's good. And I said, there's one tie-off that's smaller than my thumb. I said, we break that, we're screwed. I said, so I'm going to move your hand where I need you. And he said, okay. So we went, and every time he'd let go of my leg, I'd turn around. And as soon as I'd turn around, he didn't have, apparently they don't use wings, so they just had a webbing harness and a dry suit. And he was just, every time I turn around, he was armpit deep in the mud. And then I realized, oh, well, when you said, as soon as you come in, you're in zero viz, now I see why. And I'm glad I put him behind me, because neither one of us would have seen, and we probably wouldn't have made it out. So anyway, I get him going, and then all of a sudden it's going to change from my white line to the yellow line. So you'll see in the video, I kind of go, here it is, and I move his hand to the yellow line. And we're going. And when we get to that entrance where I said it was really low, now he's on line, and I am not going to try and pull his hand off the line. And where the line is, it's only that tall, and I know this is going to be a shit show. So I just took his hand off my leg, and I said, you go. And so he's on line, blitzing it out, and I stayed over here so I could slightly in front of him, so I could keep an eye on him and still have him on the line. And we got through that mud section, and then all of a sudden I started seeing sticks and branches, and I knew we were close to the entrance. And then I saw the faint glow of the sunlight. And apparently they had all gone to lunch, because I said I was going to be in there 3 or 4 hours, and it took me, I found him in 16 minutes. I talked to him for 11 minutes, and I had him out in 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. So as I can see the surface, and I can see one pair of legs standing at the at the shore when there was just thousands of legs. And I hear, it sounds like the guy's pissed off. And it's a guy I know. And he's like, I think he's done already. Like, I quit. And then he saw the second light. And he goes, there's 2 of them. And you know those old Westerns where the guys are like, what do you think? And there's the mountainside, and there's like 1 million Indians coming over, over the mountain. That's what it looked like when I popped up. It was like all these people coming over, and they're all cheering and stuff. And usually, I've done this for so long. I had 5 rescues prior to that, and countless body recoveries. And I don't get emotionally involved. It's just a job. I go in, I turn into a machine, and I just work till the job's done, and that's that. I get out, I'm done. No emotions. I don't think about it after it's over with. It is what it is. And from my helmet cam video, when I surfaced, I just went, yes, because everybody, including myself, thought this guy's dead. And then he gave me a big hug. And there's just all these feet on the shore, and they start grabbing stuff, and I said, no, you get him. So they got him out, and everybody went to him, and I'm 5 feet away. And the bank's about shin height, and I see my friend Ryan, the helicopter pilot that had brought me all the stuff. He's standing, he looks down at me quietly so as not to be heard by the rest of the people, and he goes, really, dude? 45 minutes? You couldn't have swam around and made this look difficult? I said, no, this is cold, way too cold for me. So anyway, it had a really happy ending. The guy got to live. By the time we got done and wrapped up, I have no idea what time it was. It was dark. And I was really hungry. And they had eaten all the pizza.
Hey everyone! Thanks for watching our latest episode all the way to the end. Hit that subscribe button now so you won't miss our next episode.